I just got back from Mexico. The trip was for a magazine that I highly recommend taking a look into. It's called The Jungle Journal. And what this journal does is it brings to light stories that are not on the mainstream. While I was at this panel in Mexico City, I started making sketches of the audience and the panelists. That's self-portrait. And this is us at the dinner and just people that I saw there at the dinner. But one of the things that I started to think about is the feeling of not feeling ready. It almost seems like I've been trying to wait for the right moment to record and share the progress and document what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do. And I think what tends to happen is I tend to find another excuse to put off the documentation, or at least the sharing of documentation, because I do record and I do keep video documentation of what I'm doing. It's just that I don't share it. And I think the issue with not sharing is that it blocks the possibility of sparking conversation. And I want to remove the obstacles of putting things out into the world before they're ready. I'm not sure where I heard this, but someone shared the philosophy about putting things into the world that are 70% done. And it kind of shocked me at first because it made me think that I wouldn't want to put something that is not there yet out into the world. But I think in the early days, it's important to put things out before they're done, because you're still developing this habit or this consistency. And so I wanted to title this video, "It's Not Ready," or "It's Still Not Ready," or something like that, because I feel that it's very important to just do things and see where it goes. I've had the privilege and opportunity to start a podcast with my good friend Caesar, and the podcast is called Mood Board. And the podcast has been such a great opportunity to just have conversations and get more comfortable talking in front of a camera, because I think it's silly to not share things, not share progress, and not share the journey because of whatever reason. I don't like seeing myself in front of a camera or whatnot. For me, it's mostly like I want things to be valuable. And when I get too caught up in that idea of how do I make this valuable, I think I prevent myself from actually making anything at all. And so instead of thinking, how can I make this valuable? I'm starting to think, how can I just make something that is honest and transparent and a good document? And so that's the point of this video, just to share with you how I'm going about that. Going back to that idea of things not being done or things not being ready yet, I think it's a matter of being comfortable with the fact that things are never ready. Things are never done. They're merely abandoned. And I stole that from Leonardo da Vinci, actually. I think he has a quote that says that art is never finished. It's merely abandoned. This channel already has 1,000 subscribers. And I'm curious to think what will happen when that number increases and there are more participants in the audience that are contributing to the conversation. This documentation has started before in the past and then stopped. And I've noticed this pattern over the course of 3+ years where it's really easy to start something, but it's very difficult to maintain it. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and it really comes down to the system and the process around the creation of this video, this documentation. how is the system designed? If it's designed to be multiple steps and quite cumbersome, it makes the process of delivery much more difficult. So there's a lot more friction points. So I started to think, how can I streamline that process? How can I make it really easy to create high quality documentation? The point of this is I really didn't have a plan for this video other than I knew that I wanted to come and share this personal experience of feeling like this isn't ready. This video, this channel, none of it is truly thought out other than here are the topics that I want to cover. Here are the things that I care about. And here's a loose plan of how I want to go about it. It's that there are so many things going on currently in my world that I would love to share. Things that I'm learning about, things that I'm experiencing that I think would be very valuable. And I get to do that. I get to share a part of that on the Mood Board podcast with Caesar in our conversations, which, by the way, we've already been doing it for a month and we have 4 episodes. And they are all great conversations that I highly recommend you listen to if you're curious. So I want to share a little bit about what I'm currently doing. My main focus right now is giving my portfolio a refresh. The idea here is that I want to create a digital experience on the web for people that are curious about working with me or they're curious about my work. And during this process, I've learned so much about ways of presenting, ways of formatting the work and articulating my process. And so I'm looking forward to sharing, but the idea there is I want to make it very clear what I do. And that involves having a website that clearly states what I've worked on, what I care about, and what I want to work on next. So to wrap this up, I would really love to hear from you about whatever is on your mind. If you have ideas of how I can improve this channel, please send them over. I'm very curious to hear what you would like to see, and maybe we can spark a conversation. I think I'm more interested nowadays with long form content. I'm not so interested in short bursts of entertainment. Moving forward, I want to explore formats and mediums that are more substantial, that are longer, that are slow, that are more engaging. In the long run, I just don't really find it attractive to create things that are just meant for short bursts of dopamine. And so I think this channel is going to evolve into providing an outlet for stories, a platform to share knowledge in ways that don't feel rushed. I don't want to feel like I've got, 10 seconds to speak or share. I think that there's a place for that, but I think there's so much nuance in the process and telling stories and what I do that I think long form is where my attention should be. And I also just find it a lot more valuable to dive into things like videos and essays. Books, for example, are such a great way to download information and to explore different things. And so that's kind of the idea. I want to maintain the consistency, and I'm still working to improve the system by which I create these documents. It is important to think about that production method in order to make it consistently. It has to be easy. It has to feel seamless in order to be something that you can do repeatedly. So I'm working on my portfolio just to kind of wrap this video up. It's not ready yet. It's almost there. And I'm also working on the new Codex website. If you don't know what Codex is, it's a curated library for curious individuals that are looking for a quiet place on the internet. And it's also a community as well. So I'm working on those things. And I'm also exploring, reading. This week, I'm going on a 3-day fishing expedition. It's more like a school. I did it last year and I'm going to do it this year again. And I'm really excited for that because it's an oasis for me to be out there in nature and away from the screens and away from the city. There is something very beautiful about being connected to the water and the wildlife. I'm looking forward to documenting that as well and taking notes and learning from people who have been doing it for ages. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you because I think as a designer, it's very important to take as many experiences as you can. I think that is what nurtures you as a person who designs things for people. And I really I see so many connections with fly fishing and design. And maybe that's for another video, but that's what I'm doing this week. That's going to take up my next weekend. I'm thinking of making a video for that. And then when I come back, I want to also explore the city and use this documentation as an excuse to get out more and sketch in the world, because I live in New York City and I feel like sometimes I don't take advantage of being out in the world as much as I do when I go to another city. You know how when you live somewhere for a while and you kind of get used to the environment? I think that's what's happened to me, except that when I'm out in the streets or I'm out in the squares or in the city, I'm inspired by things like people walking, and you see so many interesting faces that make it, irresistible to draw. And I want to be able to put myself in those situations again. So thank you for watching this video. And remember that even if it's not ready, that doesn't mean that it's not worth putting up and sharing. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one.